Hey everybody, we're moving on to part two of our Hollows virtual tabletop series. Again, my name is Chris, also Gemelli, talking a little bit about how you can set up this weird Google Sheets workbook so that you can play with a group online using the wonder of spreadsheets, specifically Google Sheets. I don't know what to say. I'm embarrassed for myself, but it works well. Let's talk about how. So we have, in the first part of this series, talked about how the GM sets up their local copy of the workbook. I'm assuming you've gone through that video, you followed those steps, and you've currently got your local copy of the workbook. So the next step is giving your characters something that they can use to build their hunters and bring them into this environment. There's a couple ways to do it. The one I'm going to focus on is going to be using this separate tool that we've set up called the Hollows Character Builder. Right? I'll put in a link in the description below to follow that. When you make a copy of that, you're going to get an interface that looks like this that will essentially kind of guide you through the process of building your character using the way that I usually have my players do it. So we've got a link here that's going to give you information about the weapons, about the different types of backgrounds you can select. So that's available to anyone. You can follow that link. I'm not going to spend time doing that here. But you'll go ahead and just think to yourself, well, what do I want to build? I want to build a strong, beefy tank character. It's going to have a sword and armor. Cool, we've picked that. It tells us how we're going to build our health. You can kind of see how that's coming together. The sword, we're going to make a mighty sword. It's a mighty sword for a mighty hunter. And then the armor is going to be mental. Again, this is a big tanky boy. So we're going to go ahead and say, well, the sword, we're going to go ahead and give this hunter strong +2, sharp -1, and so on and so forth, right? As we go through and we do this, you'll be building your character, and you're going to get a little preview of some of the details for the character as you're making those decisions. I'm not going to go through that whole process. I'll show you a different type of character I've made. This is the opposite of a tanky boy. This is Duncan Timid. This is going to be a backline support specialist who uses a book and a staff. They're very wise, somewhat hard, not so strong, and their eyesight has been ruined by too much time with their book. So we're going to start with this. Now, if your players are, not wanting to use the virtual tabletop, this is great for actually making them something they can print out. There's a couple options you have. One of them is this printable sheet where, you give someone a copy of this. They fill out the details around adding a picture, putting in information about how does their book look, how does their staff look, and then it kind of keeps track of which abilities you've selected so far. So you always have a reference that you can kind of have without flipping a sheet around to something else. And then there's a list of all of the locked abilities, the ones you haven't unlocked, available on a second sheet. That's fine. I think a lot of the people that I've been working with, though, would really rather use a different version of this, which is this one-shots version. And this one allows you to go ahead and just have all of those tier 1 weapon abilities available, right? We don't need to get to tier 2 yet. We don't want to have a huge lookup sheet. So this kind of gives you one page to kind of keep track of your resolve, your wounds, the equipment you've got, and then you can kind of keep track. What have you already unlocked? What might you want to unlock next? And then the second page will have information for you to use to store information about your characters, permanent abilities, their corruption if they've died, what echoes have they picked up, and then just notes. And then there's a little bit of a cheat sheet. So again, I like giving this to people for their first session because it's 2 pages. Most of the information you need is on the first page. You print it out, you're good to go. That should be everything you need. But we're going to have to think about the scenario where we're not just putting this in for offline play. We're going to bring it into our Google Sheets virtual tabletop. How do we do that? We're going to do that by use of this weird arcane looking thing, which says, if using the Hollows VTT, copy this field. Okay, we'll go ahead and select that, hit Control-C. We're going to go back to our virtual tabletop, and there's this tab we covered on the first one very briefly called Character Exports, and we're going to go ahead and just paste that in right here. Okay, now when you paste this in, a couple things to note. You need to get rid of all of the weird white space that Google has not so helpfully put in at the back end. So we put the cursor right after the last bit here, which is that sharp -1. We select everything else and we delete it. So basically, if you use the right arrow keys and you're just to the right of the -1, there should be nothing else. No spaces, no nothing. I'll try to fix that later on, but it is what it is. And then when you're done, you click import care. The script is going to run. It's going to load all the information that you've put in for Duncan Timid, and it's going to put it in to the worksheet. When it's done, you'll see that right now that first tab, Hunter 1, has been replaced with Duncan Timid, the name of your player. Let's go over there, and we'll take a look at what we've got. All of the information that we've put in so far around this character is kind of loaded in here in this character builder summary, right? So everything that came in from that worksheet around your faction, your origin, the stats you've selected, your weapon, the stats, all of that stuff is kind of preloaded, right? If you want to change any of that now, you can do that. And when you're done, you can go ahead and click this arrow over here to hide it, and then you won't have to look at that again. It takes a minute. It is what it is, right? That's going to, when it's done, is going to give you a simpler worksheet to kind of keep track of for your character, right? How do we use this while we're playing? Well, first of all, you'll have the player go through and enter in the appearance for their weapons. They'll talk a little bit about anything they want to revise. The general guideline is that anything that's in this this lighter gray background is something that's designed to be edited, right? And there's some things that should be highlighted but aren't. You can use these checkboxes, for example, to say my character is ready if they've got armor. They've got sheltered terrain or elevated terrain or briar. Do they have any focus? How many focus tokens do they have? And so on and so forth, right? But you'll have the characters do that. If there's anything they want to keep track of around what they're carrying, they can do that. Here is where you're going to help them manage their new abilities that they unlock while they play, right? So let's say that you've killed your first entity. It was great. You had a great time. And you've decided that in addition to the starting abilities we've already given to Duncan, we've given him leash and parasite roots, we're going to give him ward as well. How do we do that? Ward is currently locked. It's not available. We'll go ahead and set that to unlocked, right? As you do that, it highlights with a yellow title and with a white description. That is now available for your character, all right? You can see we've got all those tier 2 abilities and tier 3 that we haven't touched yet. Those aren't available yet. We haven't unlocked them for the refuge. And we've got a place down here to manage other information. You can put in stuff around your backstory. And again, just anything you want to put in around this character, where they came from, what was their origin like, who are some of the other characters in their lives, what are the things that this character is really motivated by, what are their hopes, right? Where do they want to go as a character? What does kind of happiness and contentment look like for them? What are their hobbies? Are they doing taxidermy? Are they building weird spreadsheets in the dead of night when their friends can't see? What are their connections to other players, right? Or are there other hunters, right? Did they have any shared backstory? Are there things that brought them together? All of that stuff is just kind of just plain text. You can add that in as you're going. And then finally, there's a section over here for corruption. Whenever you die, or whenever the GM tells you to gain corruption, you'll gain corruption, right? And then sometimes you'll gain a boon. If there's a boon, you'll say, which boon have you received? Let's say we got a reinforcement for our book. It means your book's resolve damage is increased by 1. Great, right? Sometimes it'll be a bane. Sometimes it'll be intrusion, right? The worst day of this Hunter's Seed story is going to start showing up. Start showing up during exploration. Hopefully not start showing up, because that would be awful, right? And so then it'll tell you how that's going to be playing out, all right? We'll leave those as blank, but that's where you'll put them when they come in, all right? So as you're doing this, again, you'll be keeping track of your health, your resolve, and your wounds. If the GM says mark resolve, you just check the boxes to show that you've taken that resolve damage. Now you're at 3 out of 6, all right? Same thing for wounds. And again, as you, if you do go down, you've lost your last wounds, you'll be dying, and you'll get ready to go back to the refuge. Don't worry about it. You can also put in temporary buffs. Some of your abilities or skills will give you the ability to add temporary changes to your stats. So, for example, I think Skirmisher is a pistol ability that lets you temporarily increase your quick or your sharp. Let's say you've activated that and you're going to give yourself a temporary boost to your quick. You put in a 2 up here, and now you've temporarily got this extra quick assigned. When that buff runs out, you can take it off. All right. Other thing you can do is there are some things that you'll unlock by using the refuge, which will give you permanent boosts, right? You can go ahead and update those numbers directly here. I don't recommend that. What I recommend is you go back into this hidden worksheet. There's a place in the character builder where you can put your permanent stat increases, right? And those permanent stat increases can be for, strong, hard, quick, sharp, wise, or in some cases you'll have permanent increases to your maximum resolve or your maximum wounds. So if you want to add those and you say that this character is permanently going to get 1 to their sharp, you put that there. Now they've permanently got it. Okay? The tool will not do this automatically for you. You'll need to kind of keep track of that. It will keep track of updates you've got to your stats that are coming from abilities and echoes. So those should be automatic, but anything you do through refuge actions, you'll enter in over there. Okay, going through a lot. The last thing we'll talk about is your character token. So how do you want your character to look while they're moving around on the grid, right? There's a bunch of default art that we've got on the character sheets that is available to you. And if you're not feeling especially motivated, you can just change that. Currently, we've got this set to the priest. We can set it to hammer, right? And it'll give you a character who is, spoiler alert, holding a big hammer, right? Probably not the right thing for Duncan Timid. So I'll show you the other thing you can do, which I think is probably the best one. If you find art for your character, whether it's something you've drawn yourself or something you found online that you just want to use for the game, you can use this site called Token Stamp to kind of make your own little round character token, which will have a nice transparent background. You can give it the appropriate border. In this case, Duncan is timid. Duncan is going to be yellow because, of course, that's. So what I've done is I've taken that token and I've uploaded it to Post Image. You can try using other services. I did IMGER for a second. Some of them work, some of them don't. Right now, this is the one that seems to be the most usable for me, at least. And what I've done is I've taken this URL and I've copied that to the clipboard. You've got that. You bring it over. So currently, Duncan is set up to be the priest. We're going to go ahead and paste in this new token URL from Post Images. Give it a second, and there you go. And then back over on the grid, we've already done the refresh. You can go ahead and just click on the little circle with the player 1 over here, and it'll basically just find whichever token you've currently used, and it'll go ahead and update that on the grid. Now, nothing's stopping you from just going ahead and copying the image and pasting it directly in, and then just resizing it. That's perfectly fine. The only reason you'd do it this way is if you want to then be able to refresh this to show resolve and wound data or terrain tokens on top of the image. It's honestly more trouble than it's worth for most people. So if you want to just copy the item in, how would we do that? We would just go ahead and take this image and copy it. We'd go back to the workbook. We'd paste it in. It shows up it's way too big. Grab the corner and resize it down until it's the same size as everyone else. That can be just as quick and easy for you, right? And then if you want to do the same thing over here, you would basically just go ahead and paste it again, select this token, and say put image in selected cell. It's a different way to get to the same end. So at this point, we have loaded Duncan into the workbook. We've learned a little bit about how to keep track of their equipment, their resolve, their wounds, their status, how to update their abilities to add new things as they come online. We've learned about how to keep track of character information, permanent abilities, which you can select as you go on. I'm not going to get into that right now. And again, all of this information around kind of how to use this to manage your character, it is available in the frankly ridiculous and overwritten Hollows VTT documentation, which again, you can always find linked from the welcome sheet out here that says an initial draft of documentation is available here, right? Who doesn't love reading documentation? Okay, nobody likes reading documentation. But that's where we are for now. The last video we'll go into is going to show you some of the details around how to use this to run the game. And we'll come back and we'll see you then.